Welcome to the Yum Yum Yogi. Today we will make a deceptively vegan, amazingly moist chocolate cake. While making, let's remember your mind is so beautiful and welcoming that even God personally wants to come and visit it. You know the most important places to keep clean and tidy are your mind and heart. Now, this is the most important step. Take a mixing bowl and add oil, a high-protein plant milk, and vinegar, and beat it till light and fluffy. I'm using an immersion blender. If you don't have an immersion blender, use a beater, otherwise beat with your hand. It has to be really light and fluffy till you incorporate a lot of air into it, and it should look like that. And now, let's add the rest of the wet ingredients. Add the sugar, the applesauce, and the vanilla extract, and again beat it. You have to really keep beating it till it's really nice and fluffy. This is a very important step because this adds the air in the cake because we're not using eggs. And now let's sieve the dry ingredients. So take flour, all-purpose flour, cocoa powder. We add a little bit more baking soda than baking powder in this recipe. So add 1 teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of baking powder because this alkalines the cocoa. And some salt, and sieve this. And now add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. At this point, you don't need a beater. With a spatula, just mix till it's all combined. Don't overmix. Just mix enough till it's all combined. And at this point, you need to add boiling hot water. Remember, it has to be boiling hot. And then mix thoroughly. And let's prep 2 loaf pans. I'm using bread pans because I like the shape of them. Otherwise, you can use round pans. They have to be small, like 8-inch round. And for chocolate cake, you have to use parchment paper because chocolate cake tends to stick. So use a parchment paper and prep the pan like you're seeing on the screen. And now transfer the batter evenly between both the pans. And bake it. So we have to preheat the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. For this recipe, the temperature has to be low. It has to be 325 and for about 25 to 30 minutes. There, the cake is done. It took me exactly 25 minutes. Now transfer the cake to a wire rack to cool. Let's make the icing by melting chocolate chips on a double boiler. I created a makeshift double boiler by putting a bowl on top of a saucepan with water. Now to this double boiler, add 1 cup vegan chocolate chips. Do not melt the chips directly on heat. They burn and don't taste good. So melt it like that. And there, that's melted. Now take a cold bowl, using a bowl that I refrigerated for a couple of hours. And I'm using coconut cream. The best way to use coconut cream for icing is to refrigerate a high-fat content coconut milk can overnight, then just skim off about 1 cup of cream from the top. The cream will be on the solid side, and then you beat that cream. Now add vanilla extract. And the melted chocolate chips and beat. Usually it is a little solid, it's on a thicker side, but today it was a little liquidy, and so I added 2 to 3 tablespoons of instant chocolate pudding mix. This thickens the icing. There. That is such a delicious icing. I'm telling you, you could eat spoonfuls of just the icing. And now let's ice the cake. This cake is so delicious. Every time I make this cake, everyone who eats it wants the recipe. I'm not very good at icing cakes, but it really doesn't matter because everything tastes so delicious. It's a very forgiving recipe. You don't need to learn how to ice cakes as long as it just covers the whole cake. It is so moist and so fluffy and so delicious. It's amazingly perfect. There you have one delicious cake. Before we taste it, let's remember your mind is so beautiful and welcoming that even God personally wants to come and visit it. You know the most important places to keep clean and tidy are your mind and heart. All right, I'll make the supreme sacrifice of tasting this for all of you. Oh my God. It is so deceptively vegan. You cannot tell. It's moist. It's rich. It's really chocolatey. Not too sweet. I'll take another bite. And this time I'm just taking a bite of the cake, not the frosting. The cake itself is really to die for. Yum, yum.